Hello and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude. And
Also
Mander's
a
going to
big
tell
hello
us,
from Mander.
he's going to tell us a story, aren't you, Mander? You got a story to tell, Mander?
Of course, a big hello from me.
Mander. KK, what are you doing? Hi, Mander. He's a little grumpy with me since I was a little late getting out here and he wanted me to pet him and I had other things to do for a bit. So it wasn't hurting me, but he was bopping me on the head to let me know I'm supposed to be petted now. Where's my 5 minutes of petting? Right, Mander? Mm. What are you doing up there? Sleeping? Huh, Cecil?
Sleep pooping. I'm watching you, Cecil. He was bombing yesterday, his dad again.
Yeah, he's gotten into quite a habit there. Haven't you, little boy? Yeah, I found out last night how important story time is because I was running against the clock. I had so many things to do, and I just couldn't get Stolas, couldn't get him his story time. And boy, did he have a fit. He was just crying. And I'm like, sorry, but it's already 10 o'clock. We got to shut the lights down.
At least he's not shy about asking.
No, he's not. He likes his apple around 10 o'clock, and I tried to give it to him just a little bit ago before I came out, and he looked at me like, "No, you're too late." So he's starting to show some personality through. But he did get his story this morning. I gave him about 20 minutes of a story. I screwed up though. I don't know. I was going to take a video of it, but I accidentally put it in cinematic mode, and that doesn't work with DaVinci Resolve. You get a lot of blurring and that kind of thing because it's actually multi-layered and it's not something that it's not standard. So I had to throw that out, but no biggie, right? What else have we got with us? There's Lucy over there, Jasmine, Snowball. No Romeo, he wouldn't come out. He's down to about 2 days a week, and we're lucky to get him out on the day where we're actually running a video. So, hey, Mander. Hey, man. You okay, Mander? That a little
So
slow, huh?
what's up, Mander?
That's all
Cutie
right,
pie.
big boy.
Let's greet some of our chatters. So we have Tiki Tiki and Jem and Jamie, Lisa Banerjee, Falcon Zoo, and Carmen Thurston. So hello and welcome, you guys. Also, warm welcome to all the other viewers.
Yes, the voyeurs. It's okay. I'm quite frequently I'll watch a live somewhere and I don't pop in and say anything. So usually because I'm watching it as the Chloe Sanctuary, so I don't make comments unless it has something to do with birds. What are you doing? What a good bird. KK, you're awful quiet.
He is watching the scenery.
Yep. Yes. He sees something going on I don't see, so.
Probably two bugs fighting in the tree.
Lucy's looking out, but that's normal for her.
So
Years ago,
Rosebud Atkins is here.
oh,
Hello,
hi,
good to
Rosebud.
have you.
Movie quote today. I have to remind myself that some birds aren't meant to be caged. That's all. Their feathers are just too bright. You're chewing on my shoelace. You don't chew the shoelaces, please. No, not chewing the shoelaces. Stop it. Stop it. Not your shoe. No, leave it alone. I know. I know. Picky, aren't I? Yeah, when I was in college, that was back when I think it's somewhere around the Cretaceous period. There were still dinosaurs roaming the earth, but one of the books I read was by Bruno Bettelheim on why you should, a German author, but it was translated into English at the time. So, um, talking about why you should read your children not so much read, but you should learn the stories, the ones that you like the most in the Grimm's fairy tales, and tell them as they were written back originally. And they're pretty gruesome, they are. But his point was that your kids need to know how you react to certain things. Okay. So when you see something horrific, what does your voice sound like when you describe it? These are all things that teach children stuff they don't won't normally learn. So fairy tales are important that way. But when you're reading to a bird, they can't understand the words, but they certainly can see the different emotions that pass across your face, and they can learn your voice intonations. And unless you have a voice like the supposed singer in Singing in the Rain, or she's got that real high pitched, squeaky voice. And in most cases, it's going to be soothing to the birds, or if you have a terribly gravelly voice. Um, but it is a good way to introduce them to your vocalizations, so they get used to them. And I like if you're reading the fairy tales, and I'm using this as an example, but if you're using something that has strong emotions and strong situations, then your voices and your face are going to show different emotions to them, and they won't become so frightened when you show them later on. When you happen to be in the room and you drop something and it breaks, and you you break out with some violent language because you don't want to sweep up the broken glass or whatever. um, they aren't going to react to it quite like they would if they'd never seen it before when they heard you saying it from a story. So I just read Solas, Dr. Metz's book, The Flight of Cornelius Cockatoo, which has a story that contains some pretty rough things that are done to our babies in captivity as part of the story. So, they hear cockatoo because that's quite frequent in that story. They they see the pictures of the cockatoo in the book. What are you doing, Cecil, besides eating my head? Huh?
I think we already have somebody guessing the movie quote. Falcon Sue asked actually for a hint, then Rosebud answered Shawshank Redemption. So I think that was it. So
Yeah, that's
there,
definitely shot. Okay, who wrote that? Who wrote the story?
congratulations to Rosebud.
Yeah, congratulations. Now, who wrote the story? And what was the name of the original short story? That's another question for you. So Solus is definitely reacting. He wants his story time, and I felt so bad last night when I just couldn't do it. I mean, it's one thing to be just at the absolute deadline of putting them to down for the night, um, and another thing to extend it another half an hour, which they're not used to. So it's not uncommon for me to be so far behind just doing this all by myself that they'll go to bed at 10, but 10:30 or 11, we don't want to do that. So, but he was happy to get his story today, and he came down. And he was looking at the pictures and listening to me, and so well, the story I'm reading him right now is called "The Juniper Tree," and early on in the story, the evil stepmother lops off her stepson's head. uh, Here, take an apple out of this big case. Wham! Um, so you're when you're reading things to them, your vocalizations contain a lot of different emotions, and they learn that from you. They're observant, so they can get it. You don't understand the story, and there's no pictures in this particular book. The one I ordered another copy that I can read that has some pictures in it, but so I more or less have to show him pictures from one book and read from another if I'm going to read him a story like that right now. But he didn't. What are you doing going after my glasses? That is not like you. Come here. I'm not going to let you sit up there and try to take my glasses off. Why don't you come down here? Why don't you come down here? Hmm, little boy. You guys hold on. I'm going to try to get my notes up on my screen. Oh, good. Things all messed up. Here we go.
I just cite Rosebud, what she has written in chat. Don is a giant bird.
I definitely need more feathers then. Um, it builds trust when you do this too, because you're just basically talking and emoting the story, and they're watching you. So they learn your tone, um, the rhythm of your voice. Yeah, your voice rises and falls when you're telling a story. Your breathing changes depending on the pace of the story. Like in the Flight of Cornelius Cockatoo, there's a section where they're trying to, there's I'm not going to give away the story, but there's a section in there where they're trying to do something sneaky, and it has to happen quickly, so you have to speed up your voice a little bit, and so you get used to the way you talk. Um, Now they don't have the luxury of language, and I'm not sure it's a luxury. Deaf people. I knew some deaf when I was taking sign language, and they had no interest in learning or hearing at all. They said most of the people who talk don't really say anything anyway. So, which may be true. So your voice becomes a safe landscape for them when you're telling the story. And at other times of the day, your voice may mean different things. You're over there saying, "Do you want this?" Or you're trying to negotiate with something, like stepping up or coming out, or all the different things you do with a bird. With Snowball, it's play because he likes to play. So in this case, your voice doesn't actually require anything of them. So they learn your patterns. Your sound of your voice becomes predictable, and even your sense of humor. Mine's kind of dry, so um, making a good example is the way I would read the end of Cinderella, and it's not what you think. There's no pumpkins in the original story. There's none of that, but at the end, the two evil sisters go into the church for the marriage, and these birds that have been in the story almost from the beginning that have something to do with her father. Well, they take out an eye of each of the evil stepsisters, and on the way out, they take out the other one. And the last line in the story is, "And for their evil, they were blinded for the rest of their days." you know. So, but the way I when I read that, it's like, "And for their evil, they were blinded for the rest of their days." So, the intonations we make change according to our emotions, and that's you teach them a lot just by doing that, and you make your voice less threatening. Um, we got some preening going on here. So, as Bruno Bettelheim said, is that in the stories there's a lot of frightening things that happen, but it allows children explore these fearful ideas without actually being any real threats around them. And with birds, it's the same thing with your voice, because when you're reading something, although a lot of stories they have for kids or just don't have any emotion to them, it's just like, oh, bright eyes and bright skies and flowers, bright sky. Well, yeah, that doesn't teach a child a lot. They don't mind hearing it, but when you start talking about the ghost in the closet, then they listen, right? So they pay attention to these tones that we make, even though they don't understand the language. Um, and when you're dealing with a bird that's fearful, that's kind of important to make sure that your voice isn't going to be a cause of fear for them.
Okay, now the chat is concerned, especially Rose, but that you are going to give Stolas nightmares.
Well, he doesn't understand English, but no, but he likes it when my voice starts to get an inflection, and
Mm.
like with the in the juniper in the juniper tree. There's the next scene after the little boy loses his head. The stepmother is afraid that the husband's going to figure out that she was the one that did it, so she puts the head back on and she puts a neckerchief around the child and sits him in a chair. Then she tells her daughter, when her daughter goes home, her daughter comes up and says, "He's got an apple in his hands, but he won't give it to me." She says, "Well, you ask him again, and if he doesn't, box him on the ear." Well, you can imagine what happens then. So the tone of my voice is, obviously is a little horrified by what has happened. And I'm getting the look from Souls like, wow, what's going on? But he's not frightened by it at all. Where if I were saying that directly to him and not reading a story, he might take it the wrong way. So it makes it non-threatening. Well, in our culture too, we have been taught that just give your children mamby-pamby stuff. But when it's like George Carlin said, sometimes the first time a child realizes that, that whoops, the world isn't going to be so nice is when the boss leans across the desk and says, "Johnny, you're a loser. Pack up your stuff and go." And that's when they start to hear the harsh realities of life. With birds, they hear different tones in your voice, and to learn that they're not threatening is not easy. And if they can tune out that sound when you drop something and you get upset, like, ah, darn it, or where did I put this? That tone of voice, where did I put this? That may not sound threatening to you, but to a bird that's been mistreated, and you don't know how they've been treated when you get them usually. So that might be threatening to them. But when they hear you do it in a story, it starts to take that off. So no, I'm not, I might occasionally read something that's all sweet and spice and all that, but it's not going to give them the full range of the emotions that I'm capable of producing, so that Solus can, you know, can acclimate to them. Because I am one of those people. If I can't find something, I start going, "Where is it? Where did I put that?" That kind of tone of voice, and that might be something that in the past has been threatening to them. So, but if you can't read something that's a little more um, spicy to your bird, reading something at least is good. At least so you can maybe a Nancy Drew mystery or something like that. Something that's got some mystery to it. So you can put some inflection, some kind of emotion into it. Where did they hide that? I wonder where that is. Well, you're not going to eat my clothing. I don't know what's up with you.
KK. Or is
This
that
is
KK? Cecil?
That's Cecil. He goes from pooping on me to wanting to eat my jacket. What are you doing?
Interesting.
Think you think you just want some attention? You want
Hmm.
some attention, boy? Hmm?
Rosebud says our native stories can be frightening. Teach young children. And that is the problem. Kids are too soft and sensitive, at least today. They are made this way. And it is the closeness he's learning people can be safe.
Mm-hmm.
Also, we have Richie Kokatu and Buktia Shah who joined us in chat. So, hello and welcome to both of you.
Hello. So try it, even if it's 5 minutes. Sit down with a little book, one that's got pictures or that kind of thing, and read some of it to your bird and see how they react. And you saw that video I put up, so that's pretty much what he does. He looks down at me, looks at the book, and he starts listening to me. Then he comes down and gets close to me, which that's not his normal behavior. He just kind of, what Solus does is he puts a space between you. He has a territory between you and him. So if you've got something like apple, which I've now got him, sorry, a couple things he can choose to as a treat, and you're putting him in his cage, he'll sit there. He won't move forward generally, but he'll sit there. And if you approach slowly, he'll take them. Which before, as soon as you even started to open the door, he would just kind of move back and sit there like he's whistling. Oh, I don't really know you're here. He's just ignoring you. But actually, he's just sitting there in fear. So, but now he's interested, and it was sad to see him upset last night. But at the same time, it means that I'm making inroads with him because he really wants to be read to. Now, since I do this, you know what it means, right? I will be reading to him probably forever, unless he finds something he likes better. But and that's the other thing you have to think about. So if you're going to do it for 5 minutes at the beginning, and if you don't want to make it a regular thing, do it, every other day or something, every third day, so it doesn't become an expectation. Because once they have an expectation and you take it away from them, you get what I got last night, which was crying because he hadn't had his story. What are you doing over there? Huh? Big boy?
Oh, I'm okay. I'm not mute. Rosebud says, Don, I can't recall the name of the writer. I can see him, big bald guy. I think he was an immigrant.
No, I think you're a little off. This guy was born in Maine and writes most of his stories about Maine. He got hit by a guy in a truck in Maine too. But he was going under another name when he wrote this story, a pseudonym. And frankly, I think that he's written a lot and made a lot of money writing, but I think his short stories are the best thing. He writes a great short story, mediocre, book, but a great short story.
I'll just be quiet
Warum ist
because
das?
the question for me hasn't been asked yet. Why does Amy like the movie?
Ah, oh, we know. Yeah, we know why Amy likes the movie.
Oh my. Falcon says, Stephen King.
Yeah, well, but that wasn't the name he used when he wrote the book. Or wrote the story. When he
Morgan
wrote story,
Freeman.
Morgan Freeman was great in that
Now,
book. He
now
was
the
the
wine kicks in.
actually Sugar isn't whining right now. I think this Amy is.
Mm.
Yeah, it was Richard Bachman was the name he wrote those stories under, and he wrote all the stories that weren't horror stories. He wrote them under that pseudonym. So, Total Recall came from one of his stories. Come on, brain. The Green Mile. But the original name of the story was Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. That was the name of the short story. Yeah, he does a great job with short stories. I think his novels are long winded and the endings usually are not that great. But the only ending I really liked in any of his horror stories was Chris was no Christine was pretty good. That was a pretty good ending. Um, oh, Cujo, and then they screwed it up in the movie. Just what's new about that? These studio owners just don't like endings like that. Here's another one. If you can figure the name of this movie out, they left the last line of the movie out, and at the end of the movie, this is a horror movie made a long time ago. Okay, at the end of the movie, the protagonist who is able to see through things, uh, he tears his eyes out. Okay, at the end of the movie, they let that through the censors. This is back when there was direct censorship in movies. Now it's indirect, but at the time it was direct. They left the line out, and the line was, "I can still see." They said it was too horrific for the public. Kind of like Mander when he's on a tear. He hasn't done one of those in a long time. Put on a baseball cap. I could show you what he looks like when he's ready to kill you. Although he doesn't like the hood on this thing either. If I put it up, he'll. It's not quite as bad as a baseball cap, but he'll come over and start threatening me. And that's no story. That's the truth. What are you doing over there, buddy boy? I can't remember the name of that book. It was a long time ago. We're talking what 50 years ago, but it was controversial at the time because everybody was following after that idiot they had, uh, Dr. Spock, the one who said, "Don't spank your children. Don't punish them." My my uncle Ted had a little boy named Richie that they followed that pattern with, or Ricky, and they used to. He thought his name was Ricky No No because they were like Ricky No No, Ricky No. He thought his name was Ricky No No, but he would just do whatever. There was no way to stop him. He was uncontrolled. But that's when Bettelheim came out with his book, and there were a lot of people that said, "Oh, that's these stories are too harsh for children." No, they're not. As Rosebud said, I've read some of those Indian stories, some of those Native American stories, and yeah, they get down. They're pretty tough, and it's just you gotta teach the reality of the world. Oh, I took it out of your mouth. Now you don't want it back. You don't want it back. Okay. Well, yeah, you're gonna start acting like Cecil. Did you learn that from him? You did. Okay, I thought maybe I did. But you're such a good bird.
Hmm.
Yeah, just don't tell your story. Tell the same story that Nick Nolte said to Ed Murphy in 48 Hours. Don't tell him that story. It's too short. Um, you laughed at that one? You knew that was a joke? He laughed.
Rosebud says, I hate that the person who said, be your kid's friend, ruined all four of her kids.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard a lot of people say that too, that you cannot be the friend of your child. I was, I'm listening to a book by Schwarzenegger about his life. And in there, he actually said that, oh, they read us all these read actually told us all these horrifying stories when I was a child, and I would never read that to my kids. But then when you listen to his life, with the stuff he went through, he had a life where he had to overcome a lot of obstacles, and you don't overcome obstacles by sitting on the ground blowing bubble gum all day. You you have to see that the world has its good and its bad points. There's a story, a Grimm's fairy tale is called Cat and Mouse in Partnership. Well, you can imagine how that ends. You know? It doesn't end well for the mouse, but it teaches children that there are certain natural behaviors, even though the cat and the dog or the cat and the mouse can talk in the story, that cats and mice are not going to be able to get along. You know, so most of those stories you embed them in your mind, and then you tell them back to your child. In this case, I mean, I can tell some of these stories already without a book in front of me. I don't have to read some of them. But and then you really emote because the spots that you find the most exciting are the ones you embellish when you're telling the story. But just reading to your parrot, so especially if it's a picture book and something that's not completely milk toast, I mean, a mystery, even some just if you've got a book, you don't have any kids books around, but you have a copy of a Thomas Harris book like Silence of the Lambs, you can read that to your parrot. It's not going to know what the words are. When you're describing a scene that's pretty horrific, your voice will pick up on intonations, and the bird will learn from your facial expressions, your body motion, and everything, how you're reacting to something. But it's not threatening to them. because you're reading or you're telling a story, right? If you're just sitting there telling a story without a book, you have one memorized, not completely memorized, but you know the story so you can tell it. I'm not talking about word for word here, but give it a try and let us know what your bird does, or if you're already doing that, let us know how that works for you. Nice tail flash. Yeah, you have to think through a lot of things too when you're working with birds, and the name, Solas is there's it's an absolutely non-threatening name. The name he had with an M, N, and a G in it, that's not, yeah. Besides the associations with it, it's a pretty tough name. You know, you have to listen to it just for the sounds. Well, Solas just sounds peaceful, but you know, Mango doesn't sound quite so peaceful. The associations he has with it are obvious because if he hears that name, which I don't say around him anymore, he almost always restricts himself, moves a little further back in the cage. His eyes go oval. He doesn't like the name, so I don't recommend changing names unless there's a good reason. But in this case, there's definitely a good reason. So, and you can take a story and change the name of the hero, the one who's going to win at the end. Change it to the name of your bird, so it can become Solus. And just when you see it, change it as you're reading it. Really is a pretty striking change in him, and since I started doing this. And the actual inspiration to start reading for him, I started reading to Romeo when a good friend sent me a bunch of books, little kids' books, and I started reading for Romeo. And he enjoys coming over and hearing a story. So now he looks at me when I'm reading one to Solus, like, "You gonna come over here and read to me too?" He isn't too pushy about it, but he still needs to have a story read to him once in a while.
Hello. So, Rose, Jocelyn joined us. So, welcome, Jocelyn. Then,
Yeah.
Rosebud, she has a question. When will Solar's new cage arrive?
I wish I know. I keep checking. They say they will tell me when it's in the area. So it's all those cages come in on the East Coast and then they have to get transported. And I imagine that they're using the same kind of transport that some of the shippers I've dealt with large heavyweight items use, which basically it goes on the back of a truck and then it goes when that truck's heading somewhere and there's extra room, and then it gets dropped off at a waste point, and then the next truck that's going that way that has extra room, that's how they move it. That's why you don't have to pay freight. Because freight on something that weighs as much as that does, about 300, what is it, about 300 pounds, um, be well about that, about $300 or $400, and in order to get it without freight, you have to buy it from someone who has that arrangement, and Wayfair does.
Mhm.
So it's supposed to be here before Christmas. So sometime between the 16th and the 24th is what they said.
Excellent.
I I keep checking, hoping it'll be soon. And then I'm just going to build it right across from him. He can watch me put it together, and then I'm going to take and open after I get everything set up in there. I'm going to open the door and slide it next to his cage and let him go into it. Now, I know what he would do if I tried to just pick him up and put him in there. It would actually set him back some because he takes a hand coming at him to touch him as threatening. So unless you're holding an apple, so I mean I've got that far. You're holding an apple or a banana, he doesn't find it threatening, but
Hmm. So Lisa Banerjee told in chat that she changed Rico's name. The vet that owned him before called him Squawker. Facepalm emoji.
yeah, yeah. There are some names that just don't work. They just don't work.
Now Rico is so much nicer.
Yeah, it's a good name.
Fits the little troublemaker. Mm.
Yeah, I looked at a lot of names when I was dealing with, you know, changing the name, but Solus was the one that was the most peaceful sounding, and it actually means peace and joy if you go back to the ancient meanings of the word. So, and he likes it. He knows I'm referring to him when I say it now. He understands that. So, and actually, it's easy if you think. In most languages, in English they'll say, "What is your name?" Well, in most languages you don't say that. You say, "What are you called?" There's a difference. When you say your name, it's like it's attached to you. Somebody stapled it to your back, right? But when you say what are you called, it's just like a little tag hanging over your head that other people call you. It's not you, it's just a tag. So who knows what he thinks of himself if he has some associative name. What are you doing up there, sugar? You making yourself more beautiful? What you doing, Shug? Let's see what all everybody else is doing. Jasmine's been preening. Lucy's still looking outside. Snowball's asleep. Mander's just back in the corner. That's his little safe space, but he comes over here anyway. And someone doesn't bother him much anymore, so he's getting along better with the pink birds. Aren't you? Aren't you? Yep, in the bucket. Gotta hose these buckets down. I got to cement with a mop last night and bleach, but I missed the buckets. And it looks like they didn't miss the buckets yesterday, so. Oh, really? Are you sure? Did you want a story? Now you want me to pet your beak? Hmm? No. Hey, sugar. Cecil, what are you doing? Hey, sugar. Yeah, pretty much any story will work if it's something you like and it's exciting, it's not boring. So your voice will modulate, and you can draw them in. Better with pictures, but it doesn't have to have pictures. Some birds don't care for the pictures. Solas is looking. He wants to see a picture, but he listens anyway, even if there isn't a picture. Sugary bird. Yeah, did I find your ear? Huh? Mm, What? What do you want?
Rosebud would like to know the movie you mentioned before. She has no clue on this one.
Oh, the
The
man
one
with
I
the man
can
with
still
the
see.
yeah, man with the X-ray eyes, starring Ray Milland.
Sugar
Yeah,
is
that's
awfully cute right now.
yeah. It's funny how the censors just cut that phrase. Right, it's okay for him to rip his eyes out, but it's not okay for them. I can still see.
Hmm.
Hi, sugar. Happy sugar. Are you a happy sugar? Hmm. Can you move a little closer? Just a little closer.
Sweet treat, Sugar bird. So Jocelyn told in chat that she is right now in Florida and left her bird Cinnamon in Buffalo with a friend.
Buffalo. Doing that, little girl. Hmm. You big nut. I'm going to try an experiment with Solas too. I'm going to try reading some stories to him in German, see how he reacts to that. But yeah, you think so?
Rosebud would like to know what movies are the birds watching today?
Right now, they're watching Parrot TV.
Hmm.
It seems to be most calming for Solas. So I.
There's also often a big pink bird to watch.
Hmm. Yeah. Once he gets into a bigger cage, I might be able to start switching it back. I put a movie on once in a while, but I've noticed he does have
Mm.
feather destructive behavior, and sometimes the environment around will get that going. So, where you could pretty much put on anything. I mean, you could put The Exorcist on, and it wouldn't bother these birds, but it probably would bother Solus at this point. So, Eventually, they get desensitized and they like the action. So, and there's one horror movie they really like. They like The Hidden because it's got a lot of action in it, and they just like action. They're not. I don't know, but it's a lot of shoot 'em up stuff and things in there too. But they just like it. But when it comes to Solus, he's more sensitive right now. So it's Parrot TV. There's some other channels out there that have uh, 4K video of the forest with birds in the forest. So
Mm.
I
I'm
put that on too.
sometimes watching the Panama fruit feeder. Sometimes you can see toucans live. I think it's from the Cornell lab, university, something.
Yeah, they do some live stuff. It's pretty good.
Should be in your time zone. I just can watch it from, I don't know, afternoon or so. Then it gets light. I mean, they also have night vision, but there's not so much going on during the night.
Hmm. Not with most birds. There is that one night parrot they actually found in Africa, but
Mm-hmm.
they thought it was extinct, but then they saw it. Yeah, parrots at night, that takes a different kind of eyes. They can't see at night, so it'd be a highly adaptive parrot to
Vampire parrots.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
No, that's certainly interesting.
That's another movie they enjoyed watching was Bram Stoker's Dracula. They really liked that movie. There's a lot of really positive scenes in there too, but the scary ones don't scare them. But I don't think Solus could handle that right now. I wouldn't even try. But
Mm.
I still haven't
No,
figured
but
out what a
Panama fruit feeder is fun because there are so many colorful birds that actually visit, and sometimes squirrels who look fancy.
squirrels.
Yeah, it's funny. There are everywhere squirrels, but not everywhere toucans. So, and I just love the toucan. Also a sweet parrot. And that is one the species with the really colorful beak, who shows often up.
Yeah, there was a period of time in the U.S. where myna birds were popular, but I mean they are messy. You think a parrot's messy? Think again. Myna birds make a incredible mess. They throw stuff all over the place. Oh, that fad died out. They're still out there in some places, but they're not popular. Too bad these guys are popular because it takes a
Mm.
lot of work, doesn't it, Shug? They're popular for a time and until people can't figure out what to do with them. They end up in closets or covered all day in a back room in the dark. I met one like that. Pinky, the rescue that had him is gone, and he died about 2 years after they saved him. He never fully came back, but he was kept in a dark room, covered in a dark room for 2 years after his human daddy died. Hey, hey, that's beautiful. Hello, Jasmine. You want some too, huh? Jazzy Jazzbird. The Jazzy Jazzbird. She's been wild lately. She's been doing a lot of dancing. I wasn't sure what was going to happen yesterday. She was running all around the ground, and I had KK on my lap. He just watched her. He didn't do what he used to do. If he saw a pink bird running, he'd go after it. But yeah, he just sat on my lap and what's wrong with her? She looks like she's gone nuts. That sort of look on his face. She does get a little crazy sometimes. She
Yeah,
does the
that's what you have to get about the pink birds, the moluccans. They behave sometimes rather unpredictable, surreal.
it's funny, It's like my dad would have said, "Who wound her up?" But it's just like you just took something and wound her up, and then she runs all over the place. Just
She
climbs up
likes
on
to have
things
her
and jumps.
displays.
Yeah, she has a lot of fun sometimes, don't you, girl?
Mhm. The Jasper definitely has fun.
I suppose they'd all like to have their story time, but
Oh, look, somebody's building a nest back there. KK. Where is it, KK?
that's good.
Yep, that's kick, 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 kick. There was somebody busy. Oh my gosh.
There's one part of storytelling that I didn't mention, which is you learn what your voice does to how your bird reacts to your voice too. So I'll be watching him out of the corner of my eye, and I'll start reading something, and I'll get a little animated in my voice, and I'll see the reaction, which is usually positive. And if my voice gets too monotone, then he'll just kind of like tend to start whistling. You can almost see him whistling, like, when are we going to get to an exciting part?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, Rosebud. KK is definitely into nest building lately, as well
yeah.
as Cecil is somehow into pooping Don lately.
Mm. And Pippa's into gaining weight. I'm getting a little nervous about that. She's gained,
Oh no.
yeah, she's gained 43 grams in the last 2 weeks. So
Uh,
Pippa's gonna lay an egg. I gotta watch her
she
closely.
she's about to lay an egg. Oh no, poor girl. I wish she would lay a new iPhone,
It
one
could
that
happen.
works.
Knowing her, yeah, she'd do a better job than Tim Cook. That's for sure.
So Rosebud says to you, Don, your voice puts me to sleep at times. Mm. I'm jealous of the weather you have there.
Well, be jealous now, but when summer comes around, we're inside because it's so hot you can't step outside.
Yeah,
Does
but you
get
have a blue sky and sun,
yeah.
and we have cloudy with fog and drizzle.
Yeah, but it's not always like that. Imagine living in England.
There, the weather changes relatively often. I had the feeling when I was over there,
Yeah,
especially at
you're
the sea or so. You basically have all the potential weather combined in one day, like 5 minutes rain, sunshine, then rain.
yeah, it's not the kind of weather I want. But
Yeah, but you are also not made for that kind of stuff.
no, I don't think anyone who wears glasses is. I mean, as soon as you get rain on your glasses, you can't see.
Hmm.
And I'm blind without my glasses. So at least that's what the VA said. So if they get wet, I can't see. So I don't like to be in the rain. Um,
Hmm.
I, I would prefer not to, as Bartleby the Scrivener would say. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks, Amy, for moderating.
Yeah, thanks
And
everyone for coming by and hope to see you all on Wednesday again. Hopefully the weather will be as good, and maybe somebody will do something fancy. Maybe we'll have a Romeo out.
You never know these guys, right, Sugar? Right, Sid? Okay, guys, we will see you next time. Thanks for being here.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
The Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a non-profit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.